Ladies and gentlemen, it is February 21st, 2013, and this is the KNKL Show, Week 71, where we learn to be better artists usually, but today we are actually going to be doing a retrospective on all the things that have happened since I quit Riot and moving on into the future with making the Emma comic. And I'm your host, Kienan Lafferty, forgot to say that. And yes, today is going to be a very special live Q&A. Basically, just going to be talking about all the stuff that's happened, all of my motivation that has made me want to go forward with the comic. Basically, the reason why I'm doing this, as opposed to doing a usual tutorial today, is I feel like it's been a little while since we've talked about stuff, since we've talked about life and talked about spiritual things, the meaning of life. What is it all about? What is the meaning of art? And what does it mean to have art as a lifestyle? Because I believe that art is such. So we're going to be talking about that today, and basically I'm going to be taking any questions that you guys catapult free for all over the castle walls in the chat to the right. So yeah, if you are here today, you are a lucky person. And yeah, we're just going to get started. I'm curious to see if I could actually talk for, you know, an hour just about stuff. I bet I could. I get it from my dad. My dad's like, my dad is the king of just like talking and talking and talking. And then it always goes to something spiritual at the end, which is good. Him and I are very, very similar. So, yes, it appears that some people have the same shirt as me. That's awesome. Good style. Good style. I got this thing at Goodwill. And what's funny is, you know, talk about stories. I was working at Hot Topic at the time, and this shirt was on sale, like, when I found it at Goodwill, it was like 4 years later, or 5 years later. And back when I was working at Hot Topic, 5 years earlier, we were actually selling this shirt, so it was a little bit of a memento. I was like, oh, maybe they bought that when I was working there. And so I got it. So anyway, all right, guys. So what we're going to be talking about today is, yeah, just everything that's happened. Kind of my motivation behind wanting to take off from my 9-to-5 job at Riot. And yeah, kind of where it's gotten me so far, and just kind of, yeah, coming clean on everything that's been going through my mind. Because today, I found I kind of reached an interesting point, like mentally. I've been listening to a lot of really cool like talks on YouTube. I really listen to a lot of like motivational type stuff, positive thinking type stuff, and I'm really a big fan of making sure to stay positive, right? Because when you're leaving your job to start a comic or start your own business, it's going to be very, very hard. And there's going to be a lot of people telling you that you can't do it, questioning what you're doing, and then eventually you'll start to question yourself. So I think it's very, very important that you commit to yourself to not only commit to yourself to keep going, you have reasons to keep going, and you listen to good talks by people that have done it before you, who have become successful with their own businesses. So anyway, let's start from ground zero. Let's start right from ground zero, which is basically when I decided. I used to live in Utah, and I was working for the illustration company called Sandman Studios. Okay, so the story begins back then. I was 19. I was right out of high school, and I was wanting to get a job, you know, obviously working in art. And at this time, I remember distinctly, I took a year, like as soon as I finished high school, I was like, that's it. I got to do this all over again, and now I have to pay for it, and it's called college. I'm like, I don't think so. I'm not paying to go to college. Mostly because, I mean, my parents didn't have any money. I didn't have a lot of money, so I was like, I don't need to learn math and science and history. You know, I mean, history does help for art, but back then with my silly thinking, I didn't think that that would help. So, of course, I opted out of going to college to, you know, go to my general education and all that stuff to get some sort of degree, right? I was like, I'm an artist. I'm going to teach myself, and I'm going to show them what I'm made of, right? It's like if someone wants to hire me, I'm going to show them that I can do it. So I eventually ended up doing that. But also, as soon as I got out of high school, I decided I was going to take a year of my life and basically devote it to a game called World of Warcraft. That was a very, very interesting point indeed. That was basically my schedule consisted of staying up till about 6 or 7 in the morning every day, and then sleeping until about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon of the next day. And then from there, I would just continue playing and playing and playing. And that was basically my schedule for probably a good few months. And then I actually started to get physically sick. And my mother was starting to worry about me. She basically told me, she's like, Keenan, I don't want you playing this thing. She's trying to take it away from me. And I was like yelling. I was like, you don't know what's good for me. You don't love me. And I was being all stupid, right? But of course, looking back, I was like, man, I was really, really kind of throwing my life away. But I still don't necessarily regret it. I still think that all that time spent there was very fun. I had some great time playing with my friends. I did raiding, did all that stuff. And I eventually ended up moving up to Utah, right? And this is kind of where I started to kind of slowly pull away from it. Slowly pull away from World of Warcraft. Because I had this drive. In Utah, I felt like there was a way bigger like scene for, at the time I was really interested in music, and I still am. But I was like writing music, on my guitar, and my good friend Jordan Ring, he's an awesome like musician. Like he's just so creative and he's amazing on the guitar. He's very, very talented. And eventually what happened is we actually put together a band and we started playing local shows because the local music scene in Utah is absolutely amazing. Like just artists and music, it's like the perfect place to get started. I really, really believe it. There's no other place I've seen as good as Utah. So we started doing that for a little bit, right? And it was really fun. I just had a crazy feeling that I did not turn on the sound. I was going, I was literally going to go outside and jump off that balcony if the sound was not on. But it is. So anyway, we're playing music for a little bit, and that was really fun. And this whole time, I mean, I was kind of drawing, off and on, and I knew that was something that I was always really interested in. But you know, my dad came to me one day, and he was, my dad has always been big on like, hey, we got to figure out a way to get financially independent. We got to start a business. We got to do this and that. And he's joined all these different, multi-level marketing things, and some of them didn't really pan out. Some went terribly, but he just kept going. He's like, okay, how can I make money? How can I do this? Because my dad actually worked for Warner Brothers for a long time. He worked in the movie industry. It was really awesome. He built sets and props and all the awesome like stuff. Like he worked on one of his first movies that he worked on was actually I think it's the only Mario Brothers movie that was ever made. I think it was pretty terrible too. I haven't seen it to this day, but that was actually when his movie career got started. He worked on the Mario Brothers movie. And I'm proud to say that nowadays because I'm a nerd, and that's freaking awesome to say that your dad worked on that. But he worked on a lot of other really, really cool movies along the way. And but he did that his whole life, and he realized very quickly that it paid well, but it was something that you couldn't really like get out of. It's just like you became that robot, right? You come in and do the same thing every day, and it's in California, so you sit in traffic for about 3 hours out of the day. That's really awesome. And then you just kind of go about your business. He would leave at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and he wouldn't get home till around 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And I just kind of grew up knowing, like, I guess, accepting that that's the way it was. But my dad didn't want that, so he's always been trying to figure out a way to branch off of that. And I think lately he's on a good track. He's been helping me out with my business. Like I said, the stuff that like all the stuff that I'm going to be making money off of with like the Emma comic and all that, like all the ideas, all the really good ideas are all his ideas. And yeah, I'm really excited. I'm very, very, and I do want to just take a moment to say thank you to everyone who has been supporting the comic with your hard-earned cash. Buying me tacos at Del Taco. That's very, very nice of you, and you really don't have to do that. I really do appreciate, though, that you guys are willing to support me monetarily at a time where, every little bit helps. So, anyways, where was I going with that? Oh, yeah. So my dad and I, we decided to start our own businesses, right? And my first business that I started was a company called Controverse Clothing. Right? It was a clothing store, right? I would make shirts. And I had quite a few designs that I had made. And I was young and naive, and I was always under the impression of, hey, I'll just make some shirts, and then I'll make a website, and then people are going to find it, and then I'm just going to be a millionaire, and then I never have to work again, And I definitely got put in my place right there, because that's not the way it works at all. It was so... That business completely flopped, and I went in the hole quite a bit, like as far as debt was concerned. I bought like stickers and you know, the actual shirts and then the printing on the shirts and all that stuff. And I sold some things, but it was just like to family and friends, and I tried like marketing it to, you know, like the local music venues and stuff like that. But it's like, I learned something really, really important then, and I will get to that in just a second because I want to say this to you guys. I want to see if you kind of agree with it. But we'll come back to that in a second. Basically, something very, very important that I've learned about business. And for those of you who are looking to start your own product, it will help you out. But anyway, moving on after all that. During this time, I was looking to, again, be working in art. And I was always improving my craft every now and then. You know, I think it was probably like every other day. I'd always be just drawing something. Just drawing something. And I was always under this mindset, and I think that this is something that I want you guys to really, really take into consideration because this really helped me. I think a motivating thing, something that's always been up in my head, is that someone once said, man, every drawing you do is better than the last one. Everything you do is better than what you just did last. And with that thought in my head, I started to believe it. And I started looking, I was like, whoa, yeah, look at all this improvement that's happened. Look at everything that I learned here. And then I go back and look at these other things, I'm like, whoa, what the heck was I thinking there? Like, I can't believe I made that silly mistake of, like, drawing the arm like that, like, dislocated out of the back. Like, there's no way that it could exist like that. You know, the body's, like, twisting in some weird way that is impossible. And, but yeah, I always had that thought in the back of my mind, subconscious thought of everything that I do, I'm improving. I am improving with every single drawing that I'm doing, and I'm learning something. So I think that's something really cool I want you guys to hang on to. Anyway, moving into my first job with Sandman. Yeah, it's like a huge segue before we actually get to this. Amphead, yes. Yes, Amphead was part of Controverse. Hiro Takahashi is saying. Okay, so anyway, going way back before we went off on that tangent. I'm out of school, right? I'm 19. And my dad comes to me this one day, and he's like, hey, Keenan, I am talking with this guy who owns like a visual effects company. They do visual effects for movies because my dad was trying to start like his own like movie studio type thing, right? And he's like, hey, he's got this script. You know, do you think you could just like take 5 minutes and just like draw a little like storyboard out this script? And I was like, yeah, all right, I'll get to it. I'll get to it later. You know, I was probably like over here like playing some WoW or something, and I didn't really care. I was like, yeah, whatever. They're not gonna use me. And so a few days, I think maybe like a couple of weeks went by. My dad comes up, he's like, Keenan, I really think you should do this. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. And he bugged me until I said, okay, fine, I'll just do it. And then I literally took maybe like just a couple hours. And you know, because at first I was like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll start it. And then I kind of started having fun with it, right? I was like, oh, hey, this is kind of fun. Because think about it, you're drawing a storyboard for a movie. You gotta like look at, I mean, there was like a little snippet of the script. It was only like 5 pages. But all of these characters, it's like, okay, well, what do these characters look like? And then you kind of like just draw, like, what style am I going to do this storyboard in? So I kind of started drawing these things. And I think this was actually the point where I started to kind of fall in love with sequential art, which is basically, storyboards are basically like comics, you know, just sequential art that tells a story. I was like, hey, this is kind of fun. I really like this. And I had done comics before, but like prior to that, I'd probably drawn like maybe, I don't know, enough to like count on one hand, you know. So I loved reading comics. I always read like Garfield, you know, even though it sucks today. But like those Garfield books, like back in elementary school, I'd be so excited to read that. And Calvin and Hobbes, like absolutely genius comics. Genius comics. I love Calvin and Hobbes. In fact, I need to check that out again. I need to get myself another book. I wonder if he's still making them. I don't know. Not sure. But anyway, yeah, doing this storyboard was where I started to kind of fall in love with sequential art. And after I did it, finally, my dad took it with him to the studio where he was talking to the guy named Lee, who was later going to become my boss. And he just kind of like stuck it on the side of his like little binder thing, so that way when it was on the desk, you know, he'd like see it there, but he wasn't like, oh hey, look what my son drew. Look at this. You know, he just placed it there, you know, nonchalantly, so that way Lee would kind of look over and be like, what is that? And then he's like, oh, this? Oh, this is something my son drew. You know, just some storyboards, you know, because we were kind of playing around with, you know, what we wanted the movie to look like. And then Lee was like, let me see those. Right? And he took a look at him. He's like, your son did these? How old is he? And my dad's like, he's 19. He's like, he's 19? Really? Wow. He was like, we need to can we get him in here and can we talk to him? And so that kind of basically led to my very first job. And what was really cool was when I started working there, I worked on internship, right? Worked on an internship, free internship for probably like, I'd like to say maybe a month. I was just doing like little concept drawings, helping out. We were working on a little video game called Vermont, and it came out for a little bit, and I think it's since fallen off the edge of the earth, but I was just like rendering little sprites, and they were teaching me about After Effects, which definitely came into play later with things like the Scion Motivate contest entry, like knowing After Effects, how to move like all the little graphics around. If you go back and watch that, that was all stuff that I had learned back when I was working at Sandman. And so I was on paid internship after, like about a month, I'd like to say. It was definitely not over a month. I was working for about 10 bucks an hour. And I was like, hey, that's cool. I'm working for 10 bucks an hour. I get to draw stuff. I've worked for less doing stuff that I hate. So I was like, all right, cool. This is awesome. And I can start building my portfolio and all this stuff. And this whole time I was thinking in my head, I was like, oh, well, should I be going back to school this time? And I was like, well, I'm building my portfolio, so if I go and apply somewhere and be like, hey, I've already been working in the industry and these are the things I've done, I wanted to believe that that was just as good. And to my knowledge, or in my experience, I would say that it is. So if you're ever in that same kind of pickle where you're already working somewhere, doing something for somebody, and you feel like you need to go back to school to get your degree or whatever, especially if you're an artist, I don't think that that's really necessary. Don't try to because what's going to happen is you're going to divide your attention into two areas, right? You're going to be like, oh, school, 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 work, work, work. Instead, be like, put it all into your work. And then it'll be like, work, portfolio, 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 portfolio. Show that investment of time, right? That's what I always say. You're going to go up and you're going to apply somewhere. It's not so important that you have that degree, but what that degree represents is your investment of time. So if you've invested that time in building your portfolio, working for somebody, it's just as good. I really believe that. Okay. So, moving on. So I worked for Sandman for a little while. I think I worked for them for like a total of 4 years, but that just screamed by. I must have been having a great time because that just flew by. And towards in the last couple of years, we always had this idea that we wanted to make this book, right? And I'll show you the book. Written by my boss, Lee. And it was called Humbug, right? It was this little kid's book about these little, bugs that would sing, and their singing attracts the reindeer of Santa, and they bring Christmas, right? And so originally, Lee's idea was to have me be a concept artist, and then sort of they would lay out the scenes, and then they would create kind of 3D models. Here's an example here. And they would create 3D models and basically replicate, take a snapshot of a 3D rendering. So it almost looked like it was a screenshot of Toy Story or something like that, right? But after I had shown him a couple of the concepts that I had done, and because the company was kind of struggling a little bit money-wise, I guess we didn't have enough money to go out and make the 3D renderings and all that stuff. So he decided to give me a chance of illustrating the entire book, which is secretly what I wanted anyway. So I thought that was pretty cool. Here's another interesting scene. But just kind of a quick summary of the story is it's about this little girl. Her name's Mimi, right? And she brings with her one of the humbugs to this place called Winterton. Winterton is a place that's forgotten about Christmas. And she has to persuade everybody to kind of believe in Christmas, believe in the humbugs, because the humbugs can only sing when you believe in them. And then that brings Santa, and then Christmas is celebrated in the town once again. And yeah, the people are all happy again. And yeah, it was actually a really, really great story. I mean, it's obviously a lot deeper than that, but that's the general synopsis. So I did that. The book came out, obviously. It got printed, and it sold locally. And yeah, I mean, it didn't go big or anything, not yet. I think it's going to go big eventually, but yeah, I just think it's, I don't know, yeah, in time. But anyway, that was his creation, right? I got to concept the characters and all that stuff, and that was really fun. But then eventually what he had me do was I illustrated a second book, which is called Bo and the Beanstalk. And that's Bo and the Beanstalk, not Bone the Beanstalk. And that is a reverse take on Jack and the Beanstalk, where the giant is your protagonist and Jack is actually kind of the villain guy. The giant comes down to start a new life on Earth. He meets Jack. They are friends at first, but then Jack kind of starts using Bo, who's the giant, for his own selfish needs. And then eventually he becomes the villain. And it's a really, really awesome story. I love Bo. Bo is an awesome story. But that book has not like fully gone printed yet. And the only reason I'm willing to talk about it is because my boss has already released like a trailer on YouTube and everything. So it's out there. Okay, Lee, so if you're watching this, it's already on YouTube, so you can't come after me. So I also got to illustrate that book. And again, I was concepting characters. I was concepting clothing, like design elements, illustration styles, all this stuff. But unbeknownst to me, I was actually doing all that stuff, and I didn't realize how important it was. I didn't realize how cool it was to create something from nothing, and how much people that are looking to hire somebody, especially in a video game industry type thing, are looking for those things. They want to be like, well, how do you come up with a character out of nothing? How do you decide what clothes they're going to wear? What inspires you? What time period did you get inspired from? What type of style do you want to do? You know, because it can't just all be like realistic people. I mean, you could do that, but it's like, it's more fun, especially when you're doing illustrative kind of children's book type things, to make it more stylistic and fun. So that's a really, really big thing. If you're going in for some sort of an interview, they want to see your creative process. They want to see what's going on in your head. They want to see what's going on up here, and all of your thought process. So I would say a big thing to keep in your portfolio, I know we're kind of translating into portfolio reviews, is make sure you show your creative process. Show your ideas, all the different faces that you drew, all the different styles, all the different wardrobe things, all the different costumes and clothing that you did. All right, I'm going to go ahead and look at some questions really quick. Okay, no questions, just some statements there. All right, so continuing. And how much time we got? How long have we been blabbing? Sweet, we got another 40 minutes. That's great. Okay, so moving on from Sandman, right? About at the right when I finished illustrating Bo was about the day that I got the call that I was not going to be able to continue working for Sandman because they unfortunately were having some financial trouble and they were not going to be able to pay me for some of the work that I had done, basically. So, and this is after I had moved out. I decided to move from Utah and go get an apartment, go live with my best friend Jake in California, right? Because I had lived in California, you know, before I moved up to Utah, obviously, and then I decided I was going to head on back to the homeland and start a new life, basically, because I think I had just broken up with my girlfriend in Utah. I don't know, just the time felt right. You know, it was just like, get out of there and start a new life. So I moved to California, and that was right when I had finished illustrating Bo, and I was told that I was not going to be able to be paid for a sizable amount of work, but I have since just kind of let that go. Be like, hey, there's no sense in just holding on to that, holding the grudge, being negative, letting that bother me. You know, it's like I got to pretend like that money basically doesn't exist. I just got to, you know, get rid of it. And it'll come in time, I'm guessing, maybe, but either way, it's like I don't care anymore. It's like, what can I do now? I have no control over that. It's like I have to take care of the things that I can control. And there are ways that I can take care of myself, right? I'm an adult, I'm a man, right? So I can figure out how to take care of myself. So moving on to the fateful day at the apartment when my friend Jake comes into my room and he says, Keenan, have you heard of this free game online? It's called League of Legends. Have you seen it? And I was like, no. And I was like, no, you gotta check this out. It's really cool. My coworker showed me. And so sure enough, he shows me the website. And I was like, oh, hey, that's kind of fun. Yeah. I was like, oh, it's like Dota. It's like Dota, which is basically, for those, I mean, you guys know what Dota is. Okay. It's like Dota, right? And it's a new type of, you know, 3-lane kind of battling PvP type game. I was like, okay, that's cool. I could probably get into this. And so I downloaded it, started playing it for free, and it didn't take very long for me to notice. I was like, wow, this game is really, really special. I was like, this game is really, really good quality, and they're giving it away for free. And I think one of my favorite, or like my first character that I ever played was Ramus, and I thought it was so cool. I could like spin in that ball. You know, it reminded me of Sonic. You know, from the good old Genesis days, Sonic 2, where you can do the spin dash and then just like take off. And that was what Ramus reminded me of. So I was like, yeah, I like this, and I felt cool when I was playing the characters, and it was really a great, engaging game. And one of the things that my friend pointed out to me was, hey, you got to check out the art. You got to check out the art. And I was like, yeah, I've been seeing it. It's really awesome. I love how they have like these little advertisement images. And I quickly like started falling in love with just all the characters. I get super excited when new characters come out. I'd be that guy that's all excited to draw fan art of like my favorite stuff, my favorite characters and all that stuff. And I quickly started to realize, like, man, I want to work for this company. I want to work for these guys. So, but I realized, I was like, man, I gotta learn some stuff. I gotta keep improving. I felt like I was just on that, like if it was like a teeter-totter, I guess I was just right on that tipping point. I was like, oh, I'm almost there. I could almost work for this company. And there's just some things that I have to learn. And I didn't know exactly what they were, but I just kept going, kept painting, trying to figure out kind of what their style was. You know, I paid attention to the style. I was like, oh man, I work with all these colors, or with all these bright colors, and their stuff is like much more gritty and like dark. And I love it. And which is interesting because the game is like completely cartoony and really colorful when you get in game. But the advertisement images are all very dark. I always thought that was very interesting, and I enjoyed that contrast. So, all right, so continuing. It wasn't long before I realized, I checked their site like probably like a month after I'd start playing the game, and I realized that there was a hiring position. There was a hiring position for a 2D artist, and I was like, no way! I was like, this is it. This is my chance. I'm gonna do this. So, needless to say, I quickly like put together my demo reel, like you know how 3D artists put together like video demo reels. I figured, hey, instead of sending them like a portfolio or just like a bunch of images, I'm like, I'm gonna compile a video, right? Because I think I had just started doing the KNKL show too. I think it was right before I started doing the KNKL show. So again, I was taking that knowledge that I learned from Sandman, how to compile and create a cool looking video, and I created a art reel, basically. And I sent that off to Riot. And I was super excited. I was just like, yes! I was just like, I feel it. I feel good. I feel good. I feel like they're going to see that and they'll be like, whoa, this is awesome. And it's different. Nobody sends us videos when they're applying to be an artist. So I was hoping really badly that I get something. And so I just kept going about my day, you know. And I think, where was I working after I lost my job at Sandman? Where was I working? I can't remember exactly where I was working. I know eventually I did get a job selling jeans at the mall, but I think that was a little bit after the apartment. But yeah, that was fun too. Actually, yeah, it was right before I went in for my job interview at Riot. All right, awesome. So this is where things are going to get very interesting. I'm going to start talking to you guys a little bit more about life and what I believe life is about. Okay, so I sent in my portfolio to Riot. Okay, and then not a couple weeks later, I was actually in a game. I'll never forget this. I was doing mid Kog'Maw, AP Kog'Maw, right? Because I loved like how far you could launch his ultimate, and like people were running away, and you just like you put it in front of them so they run into it. I love it. So I was playing against the Fiddlesticks in mid Fid versus mid Cog. Okay, and at the end of the game, eventually my team ended up winning, of course, but this Fiddlesticks was absolutely amazing. Like, this guy played Fiddlesticks so well, and he basically kicked my butt, right? So, but his team still lost. And so at the end, his team's all, you know, making fun of him. We're like, oh, you suck. Who's this fiddle in the middle, huh? And I was like, well, Fiddlesticks is the only reason that you guys even had a chance, so he was the best player on your team. You guys aren't really doing yourselves a favor by saying that. And so the guy that was playing him, he messaged me afterwards, and he was like, hey man, that was really, really nice of you to stick up for me like that. And he was like, you don't even know who I am. And I was like, yeah man, well, you were good. You were a good player, and I found that annoying that your team was blaming you for the loss, even though I think you were the best player on their team. And so what's interesting is that guy ended up being somebody, I still don't know who it is to this day, but it is somebody who used to work at Riot and knew somebody, had good, let's say he was in close with some of the big names there. He was friends with some of the bigger names at Riot. So for some reason he didn't want to fully identify himself, but he did prove it to me that he knew somebody, right? I figured out he wasn't just like some guy saying, oh, I know people, but he actually proved it to me, right? For some reason, even to this day, he hasn't told me who he is. A guardian angel, possibly. So he actually used to work at Riot. And so I told him, hey, if you know anybody over there, could you put in a good word for me? I just applied as an artist, right? And I sent him a link to the video that I had sent. And he didn't say anything for like a couple minutes. And then he typed back to me. He's like, interesting. Interesting. And he's like, and then he says to me, what would you say to me if I told you I could get you the job? And my eyes just like lit. I mean, I was behind the computer screen, but I was like, that would be so awesome. That would be so great. You know, of course he's being kind of, you know, cocky saying, what would you say if I could get you the job? But he definitely did his work. He did what he needed to, and he talked to the people. He put in a good word for me. And the way that I know that he actually did know somebody is because he organized a meeting for me to meet up with one of the guys. I think he's a community, like one of the main community coordinators over there. His name's Steve Muscon, and he was good friends with him, and he arranged a meeting for me to meet up with him at one point later after I'd gotten the job. So anyway, I thought that was just like such an interesting coincidence that I would run into somebody in a game, be in the same lane as them, fighting against them, stick up for him at the end of the game, and then have him be impressed enough by that he would basically want to talk to me. I thought that was really, really cool. Okay, so yeah, so I think that was definitely an interesting coincidence, and like definitely a stroke of luck. You know, because I think that definitely kicked my, you know, in all the submissions of artists that wanted to get into Riot, you know, after you get referred by somebody that knows somebody in the company, you get catapulted to the top, right? Over the castle walls, catapulted to the top. And at least that's what I like to believe. I mean, that's the way I'd look at it. If my friend knows somebody that's an artist and he's good, I'm definitely going to look at him before all these other, I mean, it's just kind of natural. And I don't mean to like put other people down being like, oh, if you don't know somebody, you're not going to get anywhere. But always be willing to network. Networking, as I've learned, is one of the biggest things in, you know, pursuing anything professionally. They always say it's all about who you know. But what's interesting is I think it's not that hard to necessarily meet people. Like I said, you can go to conventions, you can meet artists at conventions and other things, right? Or you can meet them in a game by some crazy happenstance. You can talk on the forums. You could, you know, be persistent with it. You know, bug people sometimes. Try to bug them. Try to get their contact information. You know, try to just. I've learned that persistence really, really pays off. If you're being genuine with your persistence, if you got what it takes and you are persistent, I guarantee you are going to get what you want in life. That's just the way it works. It has to work that way. If you keep trying, eventually you're going to get it. You're not going to get it the first time. In fact, most of the time you will not get it the first time. That's the important thing to remember. You will most likely not get it the first time in anything. My first business failed completely. In fact, I think I started a couple businesses that failed completely. There was another one, I think. I don't know. So anyway, first business failed terribly. You know, just like a lot of ventures, you'll fail terribly the first time, but you learn so much. So anyway, moving on. Let me just look over here really quick. Ghost Angel is asking, do I still play League of Legends? I don't play as much as I do, or as I used to. I'm kind of a Black Ops nerd now. All right. Let's see. All right. Moving on. Alexandre Lacour is saying, I'm a professional artist who wasted a year playing an MMO, and I played Ramus first too. So awesome. Oh, that's great. Okay, how much time we got? Oh man, I have a feeling that at the end of this, I'm gonna be like grasping for time. It's like, no, I still have more story to tell. Okay. So moving on. So right before I was waiting to hear back from Riot, I was working. I decided to pick up a job working at a place called Buckle in the local mall, right? Buckle, for those of you who don't know, is a place that sells very, very nice jeans. They sell nice jeans, very, very expensive, but nice, and then crappy but overpriced shirts and all this other crap, right? So it's very, very kind of expensive clothing. And so I was there. I went there because I'm like, oh, I like the clothes, so I'll sell them. And I knew that I was going to have to kind of come out of my comfort zone a little bit because naturally I was, very, very shy. I don't like talking to strangers. I don't like talking in general to people that I don't know. And then much less I got to go up and try to like peddle some jeans at them and be like, oh, have you seen the new stuff that came in here? Like, feel it, man. Feel it. And you got to do all these things. They teach you all these things you got to do to like make the people want to buy stuff. And with everybody that walks in, this is what I don't like about Buckle. It's like everything that you do throughout the day, it's like micromanaged. It's like, I talked to this guy, I showed him these many jeans, showed him this many shirts, showed him these shoes, had him try on this, blah, 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 blah. And they check your little tally sheet at the end of the day, and it's really, really annoying. And I really, really didn't like that. It just felt like, and they paid you so crappily. Oh, it was so bad. I mean, it was like, it's $6.70. They paid you $6.75, which is under minimum wage. But the reason why they can get away with that is because you make commission, right? You make 3% commission, right? So you be like, hey, you just made the company $1,000. Here's $30. Good job. Tacked on to your, whatever, $20 you made throughout the day. So you work for a whole day, and if you sell $1,000 worth of stuff, you make $50. If you work for, I don't know, how much would that be? Like 3 or 4 hours, which is like a part-time shift, which is usually what you would be working. Because I'm the kind of guy that can't work on my feet. I can't stand on my feet for like 8 hours because I put all my weight on my heels, and I'm just a spoiled little brat, so I can't really do that. I believe in standing when I want to and sitting when I want to because I'm an artiste. Artists must sit and stand when they please. So anyway, so what was interesting, and this is where we're going to start getting a little bit deep. We're going to be starting the life conversation here. So what was really cool was it was natural for me to start feeling like while I was working at the mall selling jeans, I started to quickly pick up on the fact that I was wasting my time. I was wasting my life. I would spend 4 to 6 hours every day when I could be drawing, I could be creating something, and instead I'm sitting on my feet, getting heel bruises, trying to sell some overpriced jeans that I don't really even like that much to people. And I just felt like I was wasting my life after a few weeks. So I decided that I would rather quit and get paid nothing and get this time back than have to waste my time like this and get paid as crappily as I did. So naturally, after an experience like that, you would tend to look back and be like, well, that was a mistake. That probably shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have even wasted my time, and you might start to regret it, right? But here's the interesting thing. I fully believe that no matter what you do in your life, no matter what experience happens, if you look at it as positive or negative, there's something great in there. There's a diamond in the rough that you have to pull out of that dung heap, right? That will come and it will serve you at the proper time. And what I mean by that was when I went in for my interview, because eventually I got contacted for my interview at Riot, and I was like, yes! And that's when I went in to quit my job at Buckle. It was so funny. Oh man, you guys gotta hear this. When I applied for the job, I told my boss, this guy was such a dope, man. He's such a loser. I can't believe. So funny. This guy was like, I told him I was an artist, right? And so when I was applying, he's like, well, I want to make sure that before I hire you, I'm going to get some kind of commitment from you. What happens if, some big art gig comes along, right? Are you just going to leave us? He's like trying to like make me feel like it's like some commitment I make to some family, right? I was like, dude, I'm just working in the store selling jeans. It's like, what kind of commitment do I have to you? Like, bug off, right? But he said that. And just to appease him for the time, I was like, I'll stay working here if something comes up with art. And he's like, okay. And okay, so naturally, after I get the contact from Riot, I'm like, yes, yes, this is my chance. So of course I go in and I tell him like, and I'll leave his name out because of course I called him a loser and I don't want him to, I don't want to embarrass him. But yeah, he definitely was. He was special. He was a special man. He and his wife both. They were both very special people. But I go in to tell him, I'll be like, hey man, dude, I have my chance, man. This is my chance. I'm gonna go and start my career. I'm gonna go and start my career. I can do this. I'm going to be working in video games. And I wanted to come in and tell you that today is my last day that I'm working. Right? And you know what he did? Rather than get all excited and just be happy for me, he was like, do you remember when I hired you and I asked you what you were gonna do when something came up with art? And I was like, dude, like you don't even know. Like this is you're saying that you want me to stay here making under minimum wage when I could go do what I love and make like 5 times as much money as this? I was like, you're a freaking joke, dude. I was like, you're so ugh. That guy was just something. I was like, sorry, man. I was like, this is my life. This is what I've been waiting for. I was like, thank you for the opportunity, but I'm not working again after today. And that was such an amazing feeling. It was such an amazing feeling to go up and tell him that. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And yeah, hopefully since then, you know, he's learned to kind of be happy for other people. And kind of, he was an interesting person. He's the kind of guy that would be watching, he'd be looking at his watch as I came in, and if I was like 20 seconds late, he'd be like, Keenan, I just want to let you know that I value people that are punctual. And I was like, dude, I'm just 30, it's like a minute at most, right? It's like, we've been talking here for 30 seconds, and 30 seconds ago, you know, I was almost on time. You know, I mean, again, I guess that's no real excuse, but he's the kind of guy that if you're a minute late, he's gonna ride you about it. And be like, he's the kind of guy that will come up to you and be like, what can we do to make sure this doesn't happen again? You know, and don't do that. Don't do that. Okay? Don't do that. So, okay. So anyway, I get the contact from Riot. I'm going in, right? And this circles all the way back to what we were talking about, how all of your experiences come into play. There's a diamond in the rough that I dug up when I was working at Buckle, and that was I learned how to talk to complete strangers as though they were my friends for years. And that was a very, very, very awesome skill to have learned. Because when I went in for my interview at Riot, I came all prepared. I had like my nice portfolio laid out. I got everything printed out. I mean, I've shown you guys my portfolio before. Got everything printed out. It's all nice and all ready to go. And I went in with the mentality of I would rather them not hire me because I was too confident. I was too confident, borderline cocky, than going in and being like, oh yeah, oh it's not that good, and, you know, it's okay, yeah, you know, just like being all shy and like lame, you know. I want to go and be like, yeah, this is what I do, and if you want more of this, you'll hire me. And at the same time, treat them as though they were my friends. Like when I went in there, I just felt so good. When I was sitting down during the interviews with everybody, I felt like they were my friends. I felt like, man, I could work with these people every day. We went out to lunch with like 5 of them, and I was just talking about stuff. It was right before Wukong came out, so I was talking about, and they had delayed Monkey King, right, for like months and months and months. So I was like, so guys, when's Monkey King coming out? You know, I'd just be like shooting the crap with them about the game, talking about stuff, talking about life, making jokes, you know, being confident. And when the time came for me to talk about myself, I played it up, right? I was like, look, I can do this and this and this. I've worked for this and this and this. I've concepted these things. I have these skills. I haven't gone to college. I don't have a degree, but hey, look, this is what I can do. If you want it, then you take it. You know what I mean? And I felt good. Like I just went in there with the purpose. I had just the certainty that they were going to hire me. Especially because, I mean, I really believe by the time people are taking you in for the in-house interview, it's because when they're willing to like waste their time on you, you know what I mean? Like to come in and them take time out of their lives, it's because they're very, very genuinely interested in you. And so you just want to make sure you don't mess it up at that point by doing something completely outlandish, but make sure you appear confident, ready to work, friendly, and awesome. And so with these qualities that I learned from Buckle, translated very, very well into my in-house interview. Because if I would have gone straight from where I was to the in-house interview without learning how to talk to people in between, I probably would have been a lot more shy, a lot more submissive, a lot more just like let them push me around and tell me anything they want, you know? And yeah, that after that happened, I looked back and I was like, wow, I'm really, really grateful for that experience. I'm very, very grateful for that experience. So, yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys that. Like, never feel like any experience is like a step to the side or a step backwards or a waste of time. Really try to just pay attention to that. What is that diamond? What's hiding within this experience that you're going through, especially something that's perceived as negative. And in fact, oftentimes things that are perceived as negative can oftentimes be the most, like, they can be the most improving to you, they can be the most beneficial to you in your life. For instance, like a quick example is back when Sandman told me they weren't going to be able to pay me anymore. I literally got to the point where I had to choose whether I was going to buy food for my cat or buy food for me, right? And I chose to buy food for my cat, obviously, right? And then I just like had a little when he wasn't looking. You know? Just kidding. But during those times, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about life. And I think the biggest thing that I learned about myself is that when everything was gone, when everything was stripped away from me, when all of the money was gone, all those worries about the bills and all that crap was out of the way, basically it was so overwhelming that I just decided to push it away. I quickly, like, I was surrounded, let me put it this way. I was surrounded with reasons, with negative reasons, all the reasons in the world to be depressed and feel hopeless and ticked off and feel like life is unfair and everything's against me and, you know, yeah, like basically all of those things. But you know what I did? I decided to continue being happy. I decided to continue being grateful for what I have. And what happened at that point was something came out of me, and I really believe that it was, you know, what some people call your soul. You really start to learn who you are. You learn who you are when you are in those tough times. Those tough times, right? Like all those, you push everything away, and you're just like, okay, what really matters? And it's like, well, look at everything that's happened. I've moved out of my parents' house. I moved down to California. I'm living with my best friend. I got my own apartment. I've done all these awesome experiences. I've had so much fun doing this. And I remember this one time, I just went out to the grocery store, and I knew that this was kind of going to be one of my like last good meals, right? Before I was going to basically have to just keep making my own beans, you know, getting the bags of beans and like boiling them, you know, that cost like 50 cents, and that was going to be my diet. It's like, this is going to be my last nice meal. And I went out and bought like meat and taco shells, and I actually made tacos. And then I watched How to Train Your Dragon. And sitting down and eating those tacos, that was a point where I realized that the true joy of life is just being there, is just being alive, just being able to do the simplest things. Just sit down, like my friend was out. My best friend was out with his new girlfriend, right? So they were gone. The house was completely empty. None of the lights were on because, you know, we're trying to conserve electricity because my buddy was paying for my rent. And of course he didn't want to, you know, kick it more, you know, more money that I'd owe him, right? So all the lights were off, and I was just sitting there eating these tacos, watching How to Train Your Dragon. And I just got this pure sense of joy, this pure sense of what life is about. And it was absolutely amazing. I've never had a feeling like that before. And I just felt so grateful. I felt so good. And it's amazing that I think what that experience made me realize is that now when I see like crap is about to hit the fan and like a bunch of stuff is going to happen, I don't know what the heck is going to happen next, I get excited now because it's like, man, it's like I'm gonna have to dig down deep, and I'm gonna like my soul's gonna come out again. The real me is gonna come out, and I'm gonna make something happen because I learned that in those times where I was just surrounded by negativity, there's something inside of me that never gives up. There's something inside of me that never ever gives up, and I love that. I love that feeling of knowing that. So that's why I get excited now when I see that things might get really crazy. It's like, oh yeah, it's like it's time to man up again. It's time for the real me to come out. And I get so excited about that. Isn't that interesting that you can look at something like that? I mean, I still worry. Don't think of me as like I'm completely carefree and everything. I still worry about stuff, but worrying again is also another thing that doesn't ever do you any good. And I'm trying to eliminate that out of my life because as of late, you know, leaving the job. Let's actually get to that point, and then I'll continue more about worry. How much time we got here? Oh, hey, I knew I was going to want more time. All right, I'm just going to keep going until I finish up. We might go like maybe an hour and 10 minutes or something. But yeah, I'm just going to keep going because I think this story is very, very important. Okay, so after I got the job at Riot, it was absolutely amazing. I loved it. It was like I felt like I was just climbing this mountain, you know, like everything was just stripped away from me, like no safety gear. It's like if I let go now, I'm just going to die. I'm going to fall off and I'm going to be dead forever. And I just loved that feeling, just getting to the top of the mountain and be like, yes, I made it. I've been working for this my entire life, and now I get to work in a professional, like a beautiful game company. All these awesome people surrounding me, like some of the most cool people I've ever met in my life, all work at Riot because they're all very, very smart, talented, young, some of them very beautiful people. So needless to say, my experience there was absolutely amazing, and I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I really, really felt like I was just so fulfilled because I would just make these splashes, right? I mean, I remember back when I was doing like Redeemed Riven, and basically like that time was the heyday, right? Because that was basically, I felt like anything I touched was just like gold. You know, I just did it and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, did you see what Keenan did? And everybody would be like talking and everybody's like vying for my attention and be like, no, I need him on my project. No, I need him on my project. And they're like, no, you leave him alone. He's mine, you know? And I just felt like so fulfilled. And I felt like everybody wanted me to, you know, be doing work for them. And it felt great. I really, really enjoyed that. And slowly but surely, what started to happen, and I'm not saying that this is bad, this is just kind of, I mean, it's not good to be, I will say that I felt good, but it's not good to be in that point. Like, it's feeding your ego is what it's doing. It's like, oh yeah, I'm good, I'm perfect, everything I do, people just love, right? And eventually that will actually begin to poison your mental, it will begin to poison your brain. And it's not good. It's not, it will put you in a state of arrogance, and it's not good to be that way. Which is why I'm glad it, you know, slowly moved away, right? But there are some other things that I didn't like, but I'll get into that in a second. Okay, so continuing. About 6 months go by, and we start hiring all these other people. We start hiring other artists onto the Splash team. We start having a lot of fun. One of my good buddies, Andrew Silver, got hired on. He actually moved from New York to come down to California, and he was doing work for Magic the Gathering, doing stuff for cards, and he was naturally very, very talented, and he was a really nice guy. So naturally, when he came in and he was doing his interview and I was interviewing him, that was such a weird feeling. I was like, whoa, now I'm on the other side of the table? It's like, this is weird. This is really weird. It's just surreal to me, like experiencing this so quickly, going from one side of the table to the other. It's very, very cool. So eventually what started happening was the certain higher ups and producers started taking note. And I don't want to like go too much into this because I don't want to like piss off people at Riot, but I'll just kind of do like a generalization and, you know, realize that it's not completely on them. It's on me too. Some of the things that I felt went wrong. Over time, I started to notice that some of the producers and just people in general would just want certain types of splashes. They'd be like, oh, people respond really well when the character looks like this. Or they're doing this kind of action. Don't have them sitting down. Don't have them doing this. And they kind of start to tell us what to do, right? Tell us how to create a splash. Tell us how to do this and that. And eventually that escalated to the point where I started considering, I was like, well, I like the freedom that I had before. And I'm not saying, again, I want to make sure I emphasize this point. I don't think it's bad that Riot was doing this. From a business standpoint, I don't think it's bad to necessarily be like, hey, people respond really well to this. Let's do more of that, right? And they'll kind of call you on it, be like, oh, we noticed you're doing this with this character. We'd like to see you do this and this and this, right? I mean, in the end, they're signing my paycheck. I'm going to do what they say, right? So I'm not knocking them there. But what I started to realize was I had a need, a very, very serious need inside of me to have that freedom. I have that freedom to do what I believe, do what I believe in. Like, I have an idea for this picture and I want it to be this. I had this vision and I wanted to be supported in that, right? And that might not be the most realistic thing to do when you're working for a company, they're paying your paycheck. They can't be like, oh yeah, you go do that, man. You go do that. You know, not unless I'm the art director, right? Which I wasn't. I would have liked to have been, but I wasn't. So around this point, you know, after about the year mark, was I just kept, you know, going through this, you know, splash after splash, just doing, you know, I have a certain amount of freedom, but eventually it would just kind of tie into, oh, we want more of this, we want more of this. Oh, can you fix this, right? And they just have to give their final stamp of approval on it. And eventually what ended up happening was, I think in general, I just started kind of getting really, really sick of this. It wasn't necessarily just the job. It was the predictability of my day. The predictability that I would have to wake up sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning just to get to the office to avoid traffic on the 405, which if I left, you know, the day started at 10, right? This is going to be very interesting. This is going to be some, curious if I want to share all of this information for you because this is going to be kind of personal. But okay, so the workday starts at 10, right? But because I hated traffic so much, I hate sitting in my car, wasting gas and just sitting there. And so I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I would drive down to the office when nobody was on the freeway. Hey, avoid, you know, the freeway. But now what do I do from 5:30 till 10? Well, I would actually catch up on sleep, and I'd sleep in the office on a couch. And I would just find a couch. They had couches all over the office. And I just find a couch, preferably in a room, and I just close the door, and I turn off the light, and I just go to sleep there. I had a pillow like under my desk that I would use, and I just go there, and I'd sleep until like 9:30, 10. I get up, and what was nice, they had like a gym there, so I'd go in there and shower, kind of get ready for the day, and then I'd come back and work. Then I'd get out of work at around like 7, 7:30, go home, get home at 9, and then by the time I got home, I had time to just get a bite of supper and then go to bed. And I wake up and do the same thing again and again and again and again and again. Monday through Friday was all the same. It was just cut. It was like a cookie cutter. Boom, 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 boom. Same thing. Saturday comes around. I got to wake up. I'm usually kind of tired because I'm like, oh, I can finally just kind of relax. But I had the KNKL show to do, right? So I was like, okay, well, I got to prepare for this. Got to do that. And the whole day I was thinking, KNKL show. Get that out of the way. Okay, the last half of the day I can kind of do something with my friends. Sunday is the day when I got to go out and get all my groceries, all the chores that piled up throughout the week that I didn't take care of. Sunday was the day that I took care of that. And then right when I got all that stuff done, it was right back to the same schedule, same thing every day. I started feeling like I was falling into that robot syndrome. I felt like I was doing the same thing every day. And I was like, there's no freedom in this. This is bad. Got to get out. So I did. I decided on a fateful day that I wanted to quit my job and make a comic. I was going to do it because, again, and what actually spurred it was, okay, it's 8 o'clock, so we're going to start kind of wrapping things up. Well, I'm going to probably just keep going because I want to make sure I get everything out. And we're kind of approaching the end, so. Anyway, let me check over here really quick to make sure I'm not missing any questions. All right. Manly tears are being shed, says Raul. Yes, Raul. We shed manly tears together. All right. So I realized that I was having this genuine like wanting inside of me. My soul was coming out again. My soul was coming out, and it was saying, Keenan, you need to make this. You need to make your thing. Because if you don't make it now, when are you going to do it? Huh? After you like find some gorgeous woman, get married to her, have kids, and then you have to keep making this job? Is that when you're going to make the comic? Or are you going to do it when you're single and you have the availability to live basically wherever you want, go somewhere, do crazy stuff, take a bunch of risks, and then if it all hits the fan, it only affects you, right? And just that thought alone, I really started to think, right? I was like, well, what would happen? What would happen if I just quit my job? What would happen if I just took off? You know, how much have I saved up? Because I had some money saved up. I was like, hey, that's sweet. How long could this money last me? And I sat down, and it only took me about maybe 30, 45 minutes to plan exactly how I was going to do it, you know, generally speaking. And I was like, well, hey, it only cost me this much money to live from month to month. You know, and that's with a little extra, you know, a couple $100 for spending on groceries and going out a couple times a month. I was like, that would mean that I could work on the comic for about 5.5 months. And I was like, I could definitely make an issue of it by then. I could start the website. I could, you know, I figured out what I could do within that time frame. And then I was like, well, hey, what would be cool is like if I could work on contract. And I just started having all these solutions come in to like kind of fill the gaps. It's like, well, what happens if I need money? Oh, well, hey, I can work on contract. I can do this stuff because we're sending stuff out. We're outsourcing a lot of stuff. I was like, well, why don't I just be one of those guys? And I can work from home when I want to, and I can make money when I need to. And the answers just started coming and coming, and they kept coming. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. I was like, I really think I can do this. So I decided that, you know, at first I was like, oh, I just need a couple days off. I'm going to make it as like a side thing. I'll do the comic. And it wasn't long before I realized, it's like, no. It's like, I'm having so much fun making this comic. I'm having so much fun making this comic that this is what I want my life to be. This is what my life is supposed to be. I'm creating something. I'm creating my own thing. I have complete artistic and creative freedom over it. And I can bring in whoever I want. I can bring my friends in to help me. They can help me write it. They can help me come up with ideas. And I'm so thankful that they did, because Emma has become such an amazing story from what it started out as. It was just going to be like some little girl and she survives the zombie apocalypse, and that was it. I was like, okay, so what's the story? What's the story? And it's interesting because the right people came in at the right time and gave me basically the best things they could have possibly said. They said it to me at the exact time that I needed to hear it. And these were the people that I was working with. The comic artist named John Boy Myers. He was featured in my video that I sent to Scion. He's basically like my mentor, right? He's an amazing comic artist. And he taught me a lot about layout. My friend Larry Ray, he's a designer. He designed Redeemed Ribbon. He is an awesome designer, an amazing artist who I respect and love so much. And Larry came to me and he talked about design of the comic. And John Boy also came to me and talked about like the rule of three, right? The rule of three in a story is basically like 3 characters that interact with each other. 3 good characters that interact with each other will create their own story. And yeah, so he just taught me about that. He taught me just about like all these little tidbits of information that really jump-started the comic. And I'm very, very thankful for that. So, all right, so we're right about to the point where I decided to take off from the job. And yeah, I never felt like, how do I put this? It's like, you know, sometimes you have decisions, like tough decisions you have to make in your life. And it's interesting that this decision that I made in my life, I knew without a doubt was exactly what I needed to do. It was exactly what I wanted and what I needed to do. There was no like second guessing it. I just knew exactly that this is what was meant to happen. And I think why this is, because I really want to elaborate on this. It's like, well, why is that? Why did you have this drive that you wanted to just quit your job and make a comic? Why would anybody want to do that, right? When you can have security, you can have money coming in, you're getting paid well to do what you love. Why would you leave that? And I think the reason was, I was really inspired by Riot, to be honest. I was like, whoa, these guys that started this company just had the idea that they wanted to create their own thing and just give it away for free to people. And then look what's happened from it. It's turned into the biggest game in the world. And it's such a quality game. And I was like, I wonder if I could do that too. I wonder if I could create something and just really put my heart and soul into it, create a great quality product, and then give it away for free. I wonder what would happen if I did that. And then I'll think of other ways that I can make money and people can support me so it can actually become a business, right? But I really like that mentality of you can enjoy everything that this company offers for free. You can enjoy, like, well, not the side comics and all the concept art, but it's like all these supplemental things, for like diehard fans and all the people that just want more and people that want to support me in my ideas and my vision. That's what the store is there for. And I really, really like that mentality. So I was definitely very, very inspired by Riot with doing the comic. And yeah, I've never had a feeling that the decision I was making was probably the best decision I was ever going to make in my life. Because what's interesting is, have you guys ever had this experience where you make a decision, you decide to do something, and then you commit to it, and then after you experience the results of that commitment, your life improves so much. Like, just you're so much happier. Like, you just feel this sense of fulfillment and just reason for being alive that you just can't go back. And I'm not just talking about like leaving your job, obviously, but like, say like you quit smoking, or you quit like some sort of other habit, some sort of destructive habit, or even just a change of way of life. Like, say you decided to start meditating, you started to start biking or something, you started to look at the sun, the sunset more, look at the sky, you start to enjoy life, start to enjoy the earth and how beautiful it is more often. You ever notice when you make small changes like that to your life, the improvement of your well-being and just like your happiness improves so much that your mind can literally not go back to the way it existed before. You can't go back to that frame of mind of, I mean, for me, it was like, I can't go back to that frame of mind of life is unfair and everybody's out there is trying to screw me over. And like, even just the like, like bad things happen. And it's like, I don't want to look at it anymore. I can't look at it anymore as, why is this happening to me? Or like ask God, like, why this is happening to you? Like, why me? I don't do that anymore. I just don't do that anymore, because I know that I have something inside of me that doesn't stop. There's something inside of me that doesn't quit, and it's awesome. So yeah, that's kind of the feeling that I've gotten since I took off from Riot and I started doing this comic. I've just always, every day I wake up, there's always ups and downs, right? There's ups and downs. There's days when I'm completely worried and I get nothing done, or I get distracted by some YouTube videos and I watch those for hours, or I want to like make music for an entire day. And so there's all these ups and downs. It's always going to be like an emotional, like a state. You have to control your state of mind, right? So, but in general, my life has been so much better. My life is just so much happier. Like the sense of fulfillment is infinite. Making no money, literally, like making the comic at start. I mean, now I'm making money, which is cool. Like, I'm so happy that I'm actually making a lot of, well, not like a lot of money, but like a lot of money for a starting business. Like, I can't even tell you guys like how stoked I am that when I put out the digital comic, like minutes later, people were buying it. Like, people were just like waiting to get it. And that's so awesome. It makes me so happy. And I just think it's a really, really good start. It's a good sign. You know what I mean? Because in all the experience that I've learned, because I was doing this thing called the 30-day challenge, which is a website that teaches you how to create your own website, right? A website that creates your own website. And they talk about, all you got to do is make that first dollar. And it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while, And so just the fact that I put something out there and people are already ready to receive it, buy it, take a chance, throw their $2. They don't know whether the download link is going to work or not. They're willing to take a chance, take a risk, and help support me. It means so much. And I really believe that it's a sign that this is going to work. It's going to work. And I mean, really, whether or not it's going to work, I knew I was just going to keep going, because that's another thing. Speaking of reasons, I don't know if I told this to you guys before, but my reason for making this comic, as much as I love you guys, it's actually not for you. I'm making this comic for myself. I'm making it because I want to see it, because I want to read the story. I don't want to tell my story, right? But I want to make it for myself. I want to just read it. Like, I had this idea. It's the experience. It's the joy of bringing in your friends to help come up with stories and, just like designing and creating something from nothing. Like, that is That's the essence of it. You're creating something from nothing. You finally get to take something out of your mind and tell a story to people. And for that reason, yes, I'm doing it for myself. Same reason I did the KNKL show. I love being able to give tutorials and teach people. But originally why I started it was because I wanted to improve my public speaking. I wanted to improve my public speaking, right? And I didn't want to be shy or timid anymore. I wanted to be confident. I wanted to be able to speak in front of a lot of people. And it's really, really helped out a lot. And just by proxy, if it's able to help out other people, inspire people, teach people, like that's just icing on the cake. That's icing on the cake. But I really believe that, you know, if your major motivation is other people, it's only going to last so long, and you're going to be subject to the whim of everybody else outside of you, right? It's always going to be like, oh, what's everybody thinking about this? Oh no, this one person says something bad about that. Oh no, I got to change that. You know, if you're completely subject to the whims of everybody else, then you're not gonna be as fulfilled. You've got to make sure you have a good reason for what you're doing, and I really believe that a good reason to do something is for yourself. Do it for yourself. Really, really do it for yourself. And I hope that doesn't come across as selfish. I don't see it as selfish, but sorry. I didn't know my phone was on that loud anyway. I don't believe it's selfish. It's almost like it's my motivation, my reason is that self-improvement. You know what I mean? It's what am I going to become by doing this? What kind of person am I going to become? And when life is all said and done at the end, when I'm an old man sitting on my bed, am I going to look up and be like, oh man, I never got to make that comic. I never got to tell my story, you know? And I thought about that. That's another reason why I'm doing this. It's because at the end of my life, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be that old man that's sitting in his bed. And as silly as it sounds, be like, I never got to tell my story. I never got to make my comic. That is like the most frightening thing to me, to think that I could get at the end of my life. You know, and I'm not saying like, what if something terrible happens? You know, what if something crazy happens? I don't even get to live to be, you know, 80, 90, 100 years old. What if, you know, I get hit by a Mini Cooper like I almost did on Christmas? What if something like that happens? And it's like, as I'm sitting on the gurney in the ambulance, be like, I never got to make my comic. And I was like, nope, that's not gonna happen to me. It's not gonna happen to me. I'm doing this now. I'm doing this now. I'm gonna tell my story now. So, yeah, I think that kind of sums it up. That sums up everything that's happened, basically with what's led up to this comic. And I'm super excited about where this is going. I'm super excited about where this is heading. I really, really believe in it, and I'm super excited. And I mean, can you tell I'm excited? I'm super grateful that you guys understand, not just, you don't just enjoy Emma for the story that it is, but you understand what it means, like what it represents. It represents some kid being willing to stand up for his dreams, you know, what you believe in since you're a kid. Since you're a kid, you're always told, you know, as long as you believe and pursue your dreams, you're going to be okay, right? And there's a part inside of me that still wants to believe that. There's a part inside of me that doesn't want to let that go, because I really think that's what life is supposed to be. I really believe that life is supposed to be pursuing your dream. Life is supposed to be doing what you believe, and just somehow life just finds a way to keep on going. It just does. It just does. And I'm not saying you should just quit your job tomorrow, but make sure you plan it. Plan it. It's like those things that you said you wanted to do since you were a kid. Really plan it out and be like, when am I going to do this? Because if you don't plan it, you're going to be that guy on his bed at the end. You're going to be like, I never got to do this. I never got to skydive. No, don't let that be you. Don't let that be you. Okay? Make sure whatever you do, whatever you wanted to do since you were a kid, do it. Plan it. Plan when you're going to do it. Okay? And then work toward it. Because I guarantee you, as soon as you start pursuing your dream, it's a feeling, you get a sense of life. You get a sense of just reason for being alive that you can't get anywhere else. It's amazing. And I want everybody to feel that. I want everybody to feel that, because we all have dreams. We all have those things that we wanted to do since we were a kid. We all have those things. And I want you right there. I take you by the hand. I'm putting my hand on your shoulder right now. And I'm telling you that you need to make sure that you do those things. Do those things that you dreamed about since you were a kid. Okay? Make sure you plan for it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see, what time are we at? I'm going to take just a couple questions, and then I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Okay? Okay. Ah, man, that was good. That was really good. I felt... You can tell I had that bottled up inside for a while, yeah? I needed that. Whew. Oh, man, that felt so good. All right. And if you guys have any questions, then feel free to ask them. But if not, then I'll probably let the chat roll for, like 30 seconds. And if not, then I'll just sign off. And I will bid thee all farewell. And then next week, we're going to go ahead and jump right back into Emma. We're going to start going right back into doing the comic. And you guys can get a little, taste of what is to come in issue 2. And that's going to be really fun. Okay. Oh, shoot. There's other questions down here. Okay. Captain Big Butt is asking, from your contract, have you worked on any newer splash pages at Riot? I actually can't answer that question because if it is something that I have done, it's not out yet. It's up. So no. Two-Face is asking about the Scion contest. Scion did get back to me. They will be letting me know. They'll be letting everybody know, basically, who has been chosen next week. So I'm super excited about that. Nitrogenous Being is asking, who's the most beautiful person at Riot? Wow. I don't even know if I want to answer that one. No, I'm not going to say that for fear I might embarrass her. But she knows. She knows who she is. Oh, man. But there's so many beautiful people at Riot. So many beautiful and awesome, amazing, talented people. I love it. That is the only thing that I miss. That's the only thing that I miss. All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and call that good. Thank you guys once again for tuning in for the special live Q&A session with me, your host, Kienan Lafferty. Thumbs up if you like it. Thumbs down if you don't. I will see you guys on Monday. You guys have a great weekend. You guys take care of yourselves. And remember, pursue your dreams. Do what you want to do and plan for it. Plan for it. Don't be that old guy. Don't be that old guy sitting on your bed. Don't do that. Okay? I love you guys. You guys take care. All right? See ya.